Aloha, this is a quick screencast to show you how you can use GitHub to make doing and repeating your practice WODs super easier than it was before. I'm really excited to show you this little approach that we'll be using, I guess, for the rest of the semester. Why not? Once you have it, you should use it. So the idea here, let's say we're going to do the digits WOD, which you may or may not have read about. And the process for that is to first go to GitHub. What we're basically going to do is we're going to create a GitHub repository, and then we're going to initialize that repository with the template files, the template code, play bootstrap template. And then once we've got the master branch, the initial branch, initialized with that base level of the code, then we're going to create a branch called attempt1. And we're going to do all our work for attempt1 in that branch. And then whenever we want to do another attempt, when we want to go back and try it over from scratch again, all we have to do is switch back to master, which is going to put us back at the beginning again. Then we create a new branch called attempt2, and we do that. Okay, and then if we need a third attempt, we go back to master, create a branch called attempt3, and go on from there. Okay, so it's going to make it way less, you don't have to go through all this busy work of kind of setting up the initial repository. So let's see how that works. We'll create a repository. We'll call this digits, and we'll say database of digits. What the heck? We're going to initialize the repository so we can clone it, add, as our usual, our favorite MIT license, create the repo, and here it is. And then we're going to say clone in desktop to get it down to our local computer. We're going to clone into the digits directory in our GitHub directory. That all looks good. And so now we have the master branch of the digits repository down in our local workspace, cloned to our local workspace, which is super awesome. Next step is we want to create we want to seed that, initialize that directory with our our play bootstrap template files, which happens to be these right here. Now, quick reminder, if you've been using an early version of these template files, you'll notice that the view files, which would be down here, have lowercase, start with lowercase letters, like lowercase index, lowercase main, lowercase page 1. If you've got that one, get rid of it, okay? Download this again from scratch so that you're using these uppercase view names, which which means that the Java class files that are created out of these Scala templates are going to be uppercase the way Java classes should be. Okay, so I've noticed in one of your recent WODs that some of you guys were using the old version, so update that as soon as possible. Eventually, I got to start taking points off for doing that. Anyway, let's not worry about that now. Let's go to project. Well, let's not worry about that anymore, I should say. So we'll open up this digits. It's not got much in it. And so what we're going to do is we're simply copy everything from here, and we'll paste the items down here, and we'll replace. Okay, so now we've got that. And there's just one other little thing that we're going to do in order to set up our initial, kind of baseline version, which is to go into play inside this newly created digits directory. And once it's set up, we're going to type the Eclipse command, right, to generate the Eclipse files. And it has to do a compile to get there. Okay, so now we've got that created. So now we can import that into our Eclipse. So we're in digits, open, finish. Of course, it's called play bootstrap template, which isn't what we want. So what we're going to do now is we're going to rename this to digits. Okay, and then of course the other thing that we're going to do is we're going to update the name of the play application to digits as well. This is all just the housekeeping stuff, which is terribly boring and irritating to keep doing over and over each time you start a WOD, right? Okay, so now we've got our digits thing, and now we can actually do a reload. Let's use our fancy reload, so semicolon reload, followed by semicolon run. So that's your way in the play console of doing a sequence of commands in one line, precede the command by a semicolon, and then you can get more than one. I don't know why that syntax is that way. It seems kind of ridiculous to me, but you know, it's whatever it is. Okay, so now we've got our play project called digits. It's in a repository called digits. The Eclipse package is called digits. What we're going to do now is we're going to commit this change. Okay. Before we do that, we're going to just always scroll through to make sure that the .gitignore file is set up and we're not committing any derived files. So you never want to see, class files or anything, products of compilation or anything in this. This all looks good. So we're going to say initial commit of digits source code from play template, play bootstrap template, I think it's called, right? Just like that. Okay, so we commit and sync. Okay, now go to branches. This is where the fun begins. Okay, we're going to go to branches now, and we're going to click the plus sign to create a branch off the master. We'll call it attempt 1. Okay, because this is the first time we're going to do this one. Click branch, and now what you're going to see is we're in the attempt 1 branch of this source code. And why don't we go into attempt 1, and let's just make a super simple change. So we go into our main. Let's change the navbar brand from play bootstrap template to digits. Save that out. Okay, we should just be able to do a refresh. Okay, and now you see that it says digits over here. Okay, that's good. All right. So at this point, we could go off, and we're off and running, doing attempt 1. Okay, so just pretend the time has passed. We're finished with attempt 1. We've looked at the screencast. We've found all sorts of ways that we want to improve our time. So we're all psyched to start over from scratch. Okay? Well, here's how you do that. All you have to do at this point is change back to the master branch. And the way you do that is you click this little down arrow, you find your master, and you say switch to this branch. Okay? So now you can see the checkbox is by master, which means locally we're now operating on the master branch. Okay? Now, once we go back to Eclipse, what you can see is that Eclipse, well, you could do a refresh, but since I have the Git kind of plugin associated, it noticed there was a change, and it refreshed this file. And so you can see in my source code, I'm back to the original navbar brand, not the edit that I made in attempt 1 branch. I'm back in the main already. If your Eclipse doesn't do that automatically, just hit refresh to refresh the files, and what you'll see is we're back there. Now the only thing I want to note is that it's very important whenever you switch branches, do a clean and either a recompile, or you can just do a run if you want. But you've got to do a clean because what's happening is GitHub is not pushing and retrieving the derived files like the class files. So even though your source files have been switched back to the original version, all the stuff in the target directory, all the compiled stuff is still around. Okay, and so things will get very confusing if you've got the master version of the source code with attempt 1 version of the actual class file. So make sure you do a clean when you get done with this to restore the derived files, the class files and so forth, to the same state that your source files are in. Will save you a lot of hassle. So we've just done that, and so now when we hit refresh, what we'll see is we get a compile, and now you can see we're back to play bootstrap template. Okay? So just to reiterate, you want to switch branch, you do this down arrow. Let's go back to attempt 1. What the heck? Why not? Okay? So we go back to attempt 1, and you can see if we click here, as soon as I selected that window, Eclipse was smart enough to realize the branch had been switched. It refreshed. Now our source code is back to what it was in attempt 1. And of course, we could Control D to get out of that, do a colon clean, colon compile, colon run, to do a complete fresh recompile. And now if we go here and refresh, okay, we're back to digits. Okay, so great new strategy for being able to do repeated WODs. Some of you aren't repeating the WODs as much as I would like. I'm hoping that now that you've got the magic of GitHub, the power of branching, and the awesomeness of Eclipse, you're going to do the practice WODs, several times at least in order to really get to that RX performance so you can come in on Wednesdays and just, blow me away with how good you are at doing play development.